Is Malcolm, and I do funeral home videography and also funeral home social media. So I work with funeral homes to post the content, help them record content, come up with content, all this different stuff. In this video, I want to talk about 7 different categories that you can use for your funeral home, like social media, so that thinking of new content is a lot easier for you. And ideally, you would make videos based off of these topics, but I mean, if you want to do like written stuff or like carousels, like images, whatever, like that could also work as well. But so the first category is client testimonials. So one thing you can do is ask people who you've served, who've been very satisfied with your services, like send them a question like, why were you so satisfied with our service? Or what do you like most about our funeral home? I don't know, you can get more creative. But the idea is to give your former client a prompt and ask them to record a video of themselves or just send in the quote if that's easier for them to do. Honestly, the easiest way to go about a client testimonial isn't to have them do it themselves, but to have the funeral home staff, someone in the funeral home staff, deliver it themselves. So maybe it's someone on your staff who like heard a client talk about how they love the services so much. That means that the staff member can say, for example, oh, last week we helped a guy who had an African funeral and he had all these requirements and he was really satisfied that we did all of them. So you're kind of telling a testimonial, but from a third person's perspective. And it does the social validation thing, or like social currency in terms of your business being validated by other people. But at the same time, you don't have to reach out to that client and ask them to do you a favor. Instead, you can have your staff do it, who will definitely do that favor because it's a job. So one thing is client testimonials, and those are probably the best. I would recommend those the most. And so there's 7 categories. So maybe that's Monday. Every single Monday, you post something that's a client testimonial. Since client testimonials are always on Monday, like it just makes it so much easier. The second category is frequently asked questions. So frequently asked questions about a funeral home. That's something you should know based off of this, like your experience within the industry. For example, why would I choose a burial instead of a cremation? Or what's the average cost of a funeral? Or do I always have to have a casket at the service? And there are a bunch of frequently asked questions that you could go through, and you might already have them on your website. I don't know. But try to think of from the perspective of what would the audience be most interested in? Not what are you most interested to tell the audience, but what would they naturally be curious about? And I think the cool thing about funeral homes is that it's kind of like an awkward, weird business to kind of talk about because it's death. People feel awkward about death and funerals. And so honestly, I always think about like leaning into that weirdness and like the fact that people have so many questions. And that leads into the third category, which is weird frequently asked questions. I don't know how to phrase this, but like questions that people would feel awkward saying, but they definitely have like, do dead bodies smell really weird? Or what's the craziest situation you've pulled up to as someone who picks up dead bodies? I don't know. Maybe something less sensitive than that in terms of like stories. But the general idea is even though the main focus for your content should be like being informative, naturally, if something is interesting, like, oh, how did the dead body smell, that is going to attract attention and that's going to funnel people in to your other content if they like it. So, just in general, I would say aim for just like informative and interesting rather than just shock value, but also don't underestimate the power of using the facts of a funeral home as shock value. Right? I think you can do a lot with that. The next category is service options. So if you want to talk about um, the service options you have around burials, around cremation, around if you're a veteran or not, like these are the type of things that people will appreciate being informed about. Usually, funeral homes have this information on their website, but a lot of people just aren't reading the website. And the great thing about like posting social media videos or making social media videos is that honestly, you should be putting your social media videos also on your website. Just make a horizontal version of the video instead of vertical like a short, and that will not only increase like your ranking of your website because like Google loves having videos, especially YouTube videos on websites, but it'll also have your clients actually be informed and then like ask you less questions because a lot of the time, I'm just honestly, people are not reading the text on the website. Trust me, video is great for websites. The fifth category is brief support. So brief support is great because it shows people that you don't just care about the funeral and then after the funeral is done, you're just done with the client. Talking about grief support or just, especially if you offer grief support options like support groups and stuff, that really shows that you care about the community and that you care about your clients. And it's because you don't want to just make content for the sake of making content. You want to make content that shows people that you're more than just a business. You like actually care. And it's funny because a lot of funeral homes that I've talked to or like businesses in general, they talk about how the difference in their business is that they really show that they care about their clients. And it's kind of funny because they say that that's what makes them different, but at the same time everyone has that same answer. And bringing it back to like the grief support thing, the important thing is that you show people that you care about your clients rather than telling them. And the way to do that is, especially grief support, because grief support doesn't like financially support funeral homes the same way the funerals do, but a lot of funeral homes still do it because they legit actually do care. So why not just show that? On the sixth category I put was staff spotlight. So it's important not to just show you the funeral home director's face or whatever, or just one person's face. It's important to show the whole staff. And so it doesn't have to be directly related to funeral home stuff. It could be, what's your favorite restaurant to go to in the local area? Why did you first start working here? And that's more so to just to show that like your funeral home is staffed by actual people and actual people in the community, and giving an actual face to your staff makes people feel like they almost know you, like they just become more familiar with your brand and with your business. And the more familiar people are with your business, and like the more top of mind it is, the more likely you are to get clients. So it's that's also like the main driver for this content to be informative and somewhat entertaining. But the main purpose, like I said, is keeping you top of mind. And the final category that I suggest is upcoming events, because a lot of the time when people promote their events, they do so with text or with images, with flyers, and that's great. But in terms of people like actually seeing your content and like actually engaging with it, nothing is more engaging than video. So why are you spending all this time and effort into making an event, but you're not going to properly promote it without a video? And so going back to what I was saying about it's fine to repeat yourself and repeat topics. Like it's not like you just need to make one video or should just make one video about an upcoming event. If an event is 4 weeks out, okay, every single week, every single Thursday or whatever, every week, put out a video, a simple video that advertises this upcoming event. And because if people see it and they've seen it too many times, they'll just scroll away. They already come to the event, it doesn't matter. Or they're already not coming to the event. Well, one thing not to worry about is like oversaturating people's feeds. Like, never worry about that. And so, with those seven categories, again, I say use the same ones every week. Doesn't have to be those seven, but just establish what are the seven categories that are important for me to touch on over and over again to the point where to the point where I can drill it into my audience, and then go from there. And based off of that, you can see more engagement. And keep in mind, it's not about engagement for the sake of engagement. It's engagement for the sake of whatever end you're trying to get to, whether it's being seen as a bigger part of your community or helping your community with grief, whatever your main objective is, and which usually leads back to getting more clients. Like make sure to put the categories in place and put the intentions in place so that you can accomplish that. So I'm Malcolm Brown. I help funeral homes with social media content. And if you hit the link in the description, then it'll take you to these 40 social media funeral home ideas that make it easy for you to generate content, specifically video content.